A Plague Tale: Requiem is an action-adventure stealth game developed by Asobo Studio, published by Focus Entertainment, and was released on October 17th of 2023. Requiem is the sequel to A Plague Tale: Innocence that came out in 2019. The games are placed in the mid-14th century during the Black Plague. The two main characters are Amicia and her little brother Hugo, and while France is dealing with the Black Plague, Hugo is dealing with a family curse, and it is up to Amicia to try to save him.
You didn't have to kill them all. Just be glad you're not in one of those carts. But Hans, Lucas, tell me it's here. We're at the herbalist, but we'll have to look.
A Plague Tale: Requiem takes place 6 months after Innocence in 1349. Amicia, Hugo, the mother, and their mother's apprentice, the alchemist Lucas, have found short-lived peace in the comfort of an organization known as the Order. While out playing one day, Hugo gets attacked by a group of beekeepers and reawakens the Prima Macula. Now that the cycle of the curse has started again, Hugo has gone bedridden as his body is trying to pass through the next threshold of the curse. It is up to Amicia, Lucas, and Hugo to find a cure for his disease to stop it once and for all. I didn't care for the story at first because it almost seemed like a retread of the first game, but it gets more interesting the more it goes on. There are actually some big revelations and important lore bits that get revealed in this installment. This tale is much more expansive than the first, design and gameplay wise. There weren't any big payoffs in the story though, and events and story beats just sort of happen and then it's on to a new area without much thought or conviction. At a point, you realize the story is kind of happening for no reason, but the characters don't want to make the easiest decision for the good of everyone, which easily makes you not root for them. The story stays engrossing enough, though, until the substantial ending that makes the entire journey feel like it was worth it and connects beautifully to its predecessor, making this duo of games complement each other in a thoughtful and provoking way.
It's going to hurt from time to time. Just breathe and relax.
Your voice doesn't help.
Stop trying to be so tough. You might learn something.
If you are familiar with the style of gameplay of the first Plague Tale, then you'll feel right at home with Requiem. Gameplay is very much the same here, with some extra options that can provide more varied types of playstyles. Amicia has her sling that you can use to sling rocks and concoctions at her enemies, or to cause distractions or traps. You can also use knives to stab enemies and gain a very trusty and powerful crossbow to take down foes fast. With the help of Lucas, you can create different types of mixtures like Ignifier and Extinguish to start fires or to extinguish them, which you can use strategically throughout your environment to solve puzzles or to fight enemies.
What do we have here?
The plague, along with Hugo's curse, brings back the rats once again, and they are even a bigger problem in Requiem. Traversing and fighting are one thing, but it's a whole other monster to tackle when you are in situations with evading the rats and dealing with enemies at the same time. Sneaking around and using light sources to fend off the rats judiciously is a common occurrence you'll have to adapt to on the fly. Enemies will also have light sources, so taking the source away from them to get swallowed by the horde is one way to take them down. Hugo's new stage with the Prima Macula has granted him with some helpful abilities that you can take advantage of, like being able to control the rats to gobble up foes or to simply move them out of the way. The environments that you prowl through are much bigger and varied, allowing for more opportunities for your divisive schemes. You have avenues that you can take to sneak past the enemy encounters entirely, or you can go in and try to take everyone down. There's actually a leveling up system dedicated to this sort of approach, and depending on how often and how many enemies you kill during a situation, you will earn skills based on your technique taken. This sort of leveling up system fits well with the gameplay because it rewards you with how you want to play.
2 torches. Your jar. A cloud of extinguish will put out several torches.
A jar of extinguish. That could work.
What are you doing? The collectors swept the place already.
They've wasted enough of our time already. Come.
The intuitiveness of this design works really well with this fight or flight style of stealth type of game. Upgrading your gear and equipment and finding other types of materials are all nice and needed additions to give Requiem a more modern style of second-to-second gameplay. You can also get caught multiple times and then hide and return back into stealth instead of having to restart after getting caught once like in Innocence. Even with these changes, it still feels like more of the same. I know it's a sequel and obviously it's going to play out in the same manner like the first game, but it still feels too samey. I was never satisfied with the encounters, and they don't really get interesting or pump up the intensity until the last ones. There wasn't anything wrong with the gameplay, and the new flexibility is notable, but overall, it's just more of the same.
Who cares? The Macula's woken up again. My brother needs your help, and the rats are already there.
Control your flame, Protector. Others are burned in it. Take my bag. Let's go see that carrier.
The voice acting is good, but the voice direction can be really annoying sometimes.
We've got a rope here.
Even in their given situation, the ages of the characters, and everything in between, characters can come off as way too whiny that drives you to the point of annoyance. The game also gets super cheesy with the dialogue as well. Characters will explain things with an overabundance of gusto or dramatization that the only thing you can do is cringe, even if you feel fully developed and engulfed in this believable world.
Stay back, all right?
Plot points, definitions, and explanations get said over and over again, making you feel like the game thinks you're too dumb to understand what is going on.
We're so honored by your presence.
Thank you.
Looks like we have a new king.
Good King Hugo.
That's right.
I did experience some weird unsurprising glitches and oddities as well. The water collision is pretty bad and will make you do a double take. The water pulls up and over objects, so when you are on a boat, the water will just completely come through the entirety of the boat, which looks bizarre. There is bad crowd animation, and more often than not, you'll notice NPCs moving at half the frames they need to be. Lips don't move when characters are talking a lot of the time, which isn't a big deal, but it's funny when they do, and then the next sentence they don't. I also feel like the game is constantly putting you in new situations, but not in a good way. In a way, it feels like there were a lot of ideas in the concept phase and everything was just sort of thrown in there just to have it. But because of this, the game doesn't feel as cohesive as it should. One part has Amicia avoiding a falconer, and you have to hide behind cover while a falcon dives towards you. A tutorial pops up for it and everything, but that's the only time that happens. That part also glitched out on me during a replay of the game, and I could just run through the entire section.
No rushing. Careful, careful. Bloody bird.
I don't want it to bite me.
Graphically, the game looks exceptionally great. Large and expansive mountainsides are cascaded by abandoned forts and castles. Busy and crowded towns are flourished with a multitude of colored flowers, and darkened and harrowed caves beckon a whisper of life into their damp and disease-filled pits. The areas you go through are gracefully commented by the wonderful haunting sounds and music. Violins sharply screech during fervid confrontations and disclosures, and deep tonal drum pounds leave a resonance after twisting revelations. A Plague Tale Requiem has no trouble making you feel a part of its world.
You see a way out? Close it!
A Plague Tale Requiem has good world building skills by having fantastic sounds and music, as well as looking great graphically. The rich and rewarding gameplay is fun, and it is entertaining discovering ways through a level and taking out your adversaries. The game does feel a little too familiar though, even with the added changes. The myriad of bugs are noticeable, and characters' acting can get a little nerve-wracking. Even so, the compelling story, satisfying conclusion, and overall quality gives you more than enough reason to follow this tale of Amicia, Lucas, and Hugo to finally find a cure for their plague.
Come on.
So soft. So blue.
It must have fallen from that nest up in the
I
tree,
give a
see?
Plague Tale Requiem
Yes.
We'll look for other nests.
a
I'm sure we'll find
7.5
feathers.
out of 10.
Yes.
In the meantime, I'll make you a bird.
A night bird.